I'm going to tell you about the week I learned two things the hard way. One, the fastest way to find out who really runs your town is to say no to the wrong people. And two, some folks will call it community standards when what they really mean is pay us or we'll make your life unlivable. Now, before anyone jumps in the comments swinging, I'm not saying every neighborhood association is evil. Some of them plant flowers and argue about mailbox colors and call it a day. I'm talking about the kind that smiles like a realtor and moves like a cartel. And yeah, I know how that sounds. I wouldn't have believed it either. Until they sent officers through my gate and turned my business into a junkyard because I refused to join their little club. My name's Cole Mercer. I own a small company called Mercer and Amp, Slate Systems. We build smart security setups, camera networks, access control, custom alarms. The whole your house is a spaceship package. Not gimmicks. Real gear. Real clients. And because of what I do, I'm not exactly the kind of guy who leaves his doors wide open and hopes everybody behaves. My shop sits on a scrappy little industrial lot outside a suburb called Briar Hollow, about 20 minutes from the city. It's not glamorous. It's fences, gravel, shipping containers, and a warehouse that smells like solder and coffee. But it's mine. I bought that lot 10 years ago when nothing out there existed except a feed store and a bad cell signal. Then Briar Hollow happened. They built cute houses, walking trails, a pond nobody swims in, and an organization called the Briar Hollow Community Board, BCHB, like it's some government agency, when it's really a group of homeowners with too much time and a lawyer on speed dial. The first time they came by, it was almost funny. A guy in a pressed polo and boat shoes rolled up like he was about to sell me solar panels. Big smile. Handshake that lasted a second too long. Cole, right? I'm Grant Weller, board president. He said, like being president of a neighborhood club made him the mayor. He handed me a glossy folder. It had photos of fountains, a list of benefits, and a page called Voluntary Membership Opportunities. Voluntary. That word is adorable. I told him the truth, polite as I could. Grant, I'm not part of your development. My deed's older than your pond. I'm good. He smiled wider, like my answer was a cute mistake. Totally understand, he said, tapping the folder. But you're adjacent. And adjacency has expectations. We just want everyone aligned. I laughed because it sounded like something a cult leader would say. I said, no thanks. I like being misaligned. He chuckled, but his eyes didn't. Then he hit me with it, soft and friendly. Well, misunderstandings happen when people operate outside the community. We'd hate for you to have problems. Then he left. A week later, 2 more folders. Then letters. Then a nice little welcome packet dropped on my desk like I'd signed something in my sleep. I tossed it. And I kept tossing it. I don't like being bullied, and I especially don't like being bullied with stationery. I figured they'd get bored and move on to someone's unapproved lawn ornament. Instead, my cameras started acting weird. Not all of them. Just the ones watching the back gate, the side fence, the blind spot by the loading dock. The logs showed power interruptions at odd hours, like somebody was cycling my breakers. My tech, Jessa, told me, this is either a ghost or a professional. I said, if it's a ghost, it's getting trespassed. Then my shipping driver calls me one morning. Hey, man, I tried to drop the pallet, but there were city guys out front, he says. City guys. I'm staring at my phone like it's lying. Yeah, vests, clipboards, truck parked kind of sideways. They told me the access road was under safety review and I had to leave. That's when I pulled up my exterior footage and watched 3 dudes in reflective vests standing just outside my gate, waving my driver away like they owned the street. One of them had a patch that looked like municipal branding, but it wasn't crisp. It was like a costume, like someone printed it at a kiosk. That's when I stopped laughing. 2 days after that, I show up at 6:10 a.m. and my main gate is wide open. The padlock is gone, not broken, not twisted, not pried. Cut. Clean. Like somebody took bolt cutters to it and didn't even rush. I step inside and my stomach drops. Crates flipped. Tool drawers dumped. My server rack, the one with client backups and camera archives, ripped out like somebody hated it personally. 2 workstations smashed. Not stolen. Smashed. Like the goal wasn't money. The goal was fear. And on the far wall, in bright red paint, for words the size of my body, follow the neighborhood rules. I stood there in the quiet, hearing my own breath, and I thought, okay. So we're doing this. I called the police. I expected at least a little urgency because, destruction of property, forced entry, the whole normal civilization thing. Two officers showed up 25 minutes later like they were late to a barbecue. One of them glanced at the wall, then at me, then at the mess, and said, "Could be teenagers." Teenagers. I pointed at the cut lock. Teenagers carry bolt cutters and selectively destroy server hardware. He shrugged. Kids are wild these days. Then the other officer, younger, smirking like he already knew the punchline, looks at me and goes, "You got some sort of beef with the neighborhood board? Those folks don't like being ignored." I stared at him. "Are you seriously suggesting this happened because I didn't join their club?" He held his hands up like he was being helpful. "I'm just saying, harmony matters. Sometimes it's easier when everyone's on the same page." That's when I realized I wasn't talking to a neutral party. I was being coached. I'm not proud of how long I stood there after they left, staring at my busted equipment like it was going to explain itself. There's a certain kind of anger that's not loud. It's cold. It's the kind that makes your teeth feel too tight. Jessa showed up, took one look, and said, "This isn't random." I hired a private security consultant that afternoon. His name was Miles Keene, former military, calm voice, eyes that don't waste motion. He walked my property, checked my logs, and said, "Cole, whoever did this knew where your coverage gaps were. They walked through your blind spots like they had a map." Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice like we were sharing a secret. "You've got someone inside the system, or someone with access to your plans." I told him the only people with access were my staff and my own installers. Then I remembered Grant Weller's smile. My attorney, Ray Delaney, is the kind of person who looks like she could negotiate a hostage release and still make it to Pilates. She listened to everything, didn't blink once, and said, "They're trying to make you fold. The vandalism is emotional warfare. Next comes paperwork. Watch your mail." She wasn't wrong. 2 days later, I get a notice from the city about a compliance inspection tied to a noise complaint. Noise. We build electronics. The loudest thing in my shop is a microwave. I let the inspector in because refusing gets you labeled uncooperative, and uncooperative is a word that magically turns into fines. He walked around for 40 minutes, found nothing, and on his way out he said, "The neighborhood board helps coordinate these issues. Might be worth collaborating." Same language, different mouth. That's when Ray said the thing that made my skin crawl. They're networked. Someone's using official channels like a weapon. Then the survey crew showed up. Real trucks this time. Actual city branding. Men with stakes and spray paint marking the edge of my lot. I walked out and asked the foreman what was going on. He said, "Proposed utility corridor. We're just mapping impact." I called the planning office and sat through enough hold music to lose years off my life. Finally, a clerk tells me there's a proposal submitted by, you guessed it, the Briar Hollow Community Board. A beautification and infrastructure initiative. And tucked inside, in language so vague it could have been written by fog, was a clause about shared access designation for adjacent parcels for community benefit. Ray read it and said, "Cole, this is a slow-motion land grab. They're trying to label your frontage as shared resource. Once that happens, they can restrict your operations, access your perimeter, and eventually squeeze you out." So I stopped playing defense like a tired guy swatting mosquitoes. I started documenting everything like my life depended on it, because, at that point, it kinda did. Miles installed additional cameras, hidden ones. We put decoy cameras in obvious spots and real cameras where no one would look. We tagged our deliveries. We logged every inspection, every complaint, every anonymous report. And I told my staff the truth, because you can't ask people to be brave if you're feeding them half a story. I said, "Somebody wants us gone. If you stay, I'll protect you. If you leave, I won't judge you." Nobody left. Jessa, bless her, said, "If they want to scare me, they should try sending a clown. This is just paperwork terrorism." Then we got the first real break. Late one night, our new fence line camera catches a box truck creeping up near the trees, lights off, like it's ashamed of itself. A guy hops out, sets something down by my perimeter, and leaves. Miles pauses the footage, zooms in, and goes, "That's not a toolbox. That's a listening relay." A listening relay. On my property. We pull it the next morning. It's disguised, weatherproofed, and wired to intercept signals. Somebody was trying to scoop our communications. That's not HOA nonsense anymore. That's straight-up illegal surveillance. Miles traces the truck using traffic cam requests and a little investigative magic I don't ask too many questions about. It leads to a warehouse on the edge of town registered to a security contracting firm called Alder Ridge Protection. Sounds harmless, right? Like they guard malls. We park far away and send a drone over at dusk. And there it is, the same fake city vest vehicle parked out front, plus 2 SUVs, plus a guy in a polo stepping out the side door like he owns the air. Grant Weller, the neighborhood board president, walking into a private security warehouse like it's his second home. At that point, I'm not just angry. I'm insulted. Because the whole time, they've been treating me like I'm some stubborn little problem they can pressure until I sign. Like I don't know how systems work. Like I don't know how people hide behind procedure. I've spent my entire career building systems that keep people out. And here's a group of HOA wannabes trying to brute force their way into my life using cops, city paperwork, and hired muscle. I looked at Ray and said, I want them in a courtroom. She said, then we need undeniable proof. Not vibes. Not suspicion. Something that makes a judge sit up. And then, right when we thought we were finally ahead, they crossed the line that changed everything. I woke up to a call from my bank. Mr. Mercer, we've received multiple reports alleging irregular financial activity. We're required to initiate a review. Your accounts will be temporarily restricted. Temporarily restricted is banker speak for your business is now choking. Payroll, suppliers, rent, frozen, based on anonymous complaints. I drove to the bank so fast I'm surprised I didn't leave tire marks on the sky. The manager looked apologetic in the way people do when they're doing something awful but don't want to feel responsible. I said, who filed these? He said, I can't disclose that. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about my land anymore. This was about control. They were trying to starve me until I begged. Ray filed emergency motions like she was playing speed chess with the devil. Miles kept eyes on the warehouse. Jessa hardened our network until it could have survived a meteor strike. And then we got the thing Ray called the hammer. Not a single piece of evidence. A chain. Miles managed to obtain internal communications between Alder Ridge Protection and BCHB. Emails, invoices, payment records labeled Community Consulting. And the dates matched everything. The break-in, the fake inspections, the delivery blockade, the listening relay. Even the timing of my bank freeze lined up with a sudden batch of outreach messages from the neighborhood board. One email made my blood go cold. It said, in plain language, Mercer remains non-compliant. Increase pressure until he accepts alignment or becomes non-operational. Non-operational. Like I'm a machine to be shut down. Ray didn't smile. She doesn't do victory laps. She just said, okay, now we hurt them legally. We filed a lawsuit alleging harassment, interference with business operations, illegal surveillance, and conspiracy to misuse municipal processes. We attached everything. The drone footage of Grant entering the warehouse, the listening relay photos, the invoices, the emails, the pattern. And we requested an injunction to stop the rezoning proposal immediately. Court day felt surreal, like I was watching my life through a security camera feed. Grant Weller sat on the other side with 2 attorneys and a face that said, I can't believe you're making me deal with this. He wouldn't look at me. The judge came in, older woman, sharp eyes, the kind of calm you only get from seeing every kind of lie 1,000 times. Ray laid it out clean. Timeline, evidence, motive. She didn't dramatize. She didn't need to. Then she played the footage of Grant walking into Alder Ridge Protection. Then she introduced the emails. When the judge read, non-operational, her eyebrow moved, just a little. Grant's attorney tried to call it circumstantial. Ray replied, circumstantial would be speculation. These are their words. Their payments. Their plan. Grant finally stood up, voice tight, and said, this is a witch hunt. He's a disruptive presence. He doesn't respect community order. And the judge, I swear I can still hear it, said, Mr. Weller, sit down. Community order does not include criminal intimidation. Gavel. One hit. And it was like the air shifted. The court froze BCHB's discretionary funds pending investigation, ordered the rezoning proposal halted, and referred Alder Ridge Protection to state investigators. Grant's face changed. The confidence leaked out of him like somebody pulled a plug. Outside the courthouse, I thought I'd feel triumphant. I didn't. I felt tired. Like I'd been holding a weight for weeks and finally set it down, but my arms still shook. Jessa texted me one word. Finally, Miles shook my hand and said, "They picked the wrong target." Ray just looked at me and said, "Don't celebrate yet. People like this don't stop because they're wrong. They stop because they're cornered." She was right. 2 nights later, someone drove past my shop slow. No headlights. Just a dark shape gliding by like a rumor. My cameras caught the license plate. It was a municipal fleet plate. Real. And the next morning, taped to my gate, was a plain envelope. No letterhead. No signature. Inside was a single printed page that said, "You won this round. Are you sure you want the next one?" So here's where I'm going to leave you, because this is the part that still makes my stomach twist. The board got put under administrative oversight. Alder Ridge Protection is under investigation. The rezoning proposal is dead for now. My bank accounts got unfrozen after Ray shoved the truth down their throats in legal form. Business is running again. People think that's the end. And maybe it should be. But that last note, and that municipal plate, tells me something I don't love admitting. This wasn't just a few HOA weirdos. There are people inside the system who were comfortable weaponizing the system. And if they were willing to do it to me, a guy with cameras and lawyers and a whole staff watching, what do you think they do to the quiet family that can't afford a fight? So I want you to tell me in the comments, where's the line? If a community votes to pressure you, does that make it right? Or does it just make the bullying organized? Have you ever watched a local board, an HOA, a city office, anybody in authority, twist rules until the rules turned into a weapon? And if you were in my shoes, would you have signed the paper just to make it stop? Or would you have done what I did and dared them to prove they really run the place? Drop your take below, because I read them all, and I know I'm not the only one who's seen community standards used like a shakedown. And if you want more stories like this, the kind that start small and turn into something you can't unsee, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think is coming next. Because something tells me this isn't over.